Okay, I see you're about 4 plus me, so you literally 4. And who is the class rep? Just to get the name right. It's Oluka.
Justin or Lucas, sir.
Okay. Okay, that's okay. Let's get started. This evening we are just going to talk about a few things, but and then later we'll be able to see if we can do some bit of more exercises or hands-on. The other time when we left, we had the challenge of trying to install Java because of the internet issue. And of course, we are quite aware that the extension pack for Java can't be installed without internet from the solutions I tried figuring out. So I just wanted to give you an alternative, an online platform, which is going to be like your development environment that you can use to write your code or test your program. And that's the reason why I wanted to pick up from where we stopped the other time. And then later we should be able to start talking about module 2, which is all about object-oriented programming, which will look at classes and objects. Now, in this particular part of this lecture, we shall just review the steps that you need to go about installing Java onto your Windows operating system. So to install Java, literally, you should go to this website. I hope you're able to view my screen. You should be able to go to the Oracle Java download page, which is accessed from the https www.oracle.com. Of course, the link is in the notes I shared with you. And then you should be able to get what? To get to download Java IDE. So when you get the Java DK, which is Java Development Kit, you install it. Then you need a platform like, we're going to look at it briefly, but you need to consider which operating system Java runs on. So then the rest of the things, you use the wizard, you click next, then you should be able to click on finish. That will be able to install the executable Java file. And then once you're done with that, then you can install a VS Code Studio, the Visual Studio Code editor, which helps you to write your JavaScript. And then if on the other hand, if you can't do a VS Code, you can use Eclipse. So let's try to see those other alternatives. So there are okay, of course, these are alternatives. Okay, these are packages that you need to install Java, and that especially if you're running it on Linux and maybe Windows, you need to install what they call when you install the JDK, which is the Java Development Kit, you install the VS Code, and then you install the extension pack for Java, which is the VS Code. And then once you're done installing, you could install a few things to help you automate writing your script. And that is the tab 9, which is more of a Copilot AI to help you generate those scripts. Then you can also install the extension for Pretty Code Formatter. Basically, this extension helps you to format the code with the indentations. Just if you read a new code and you have some bit of challenges with the indentation, then you can format the code using, when you press Ctrl+S, it will automatically format the indentation and make your code looks prettier. So that's what you will use that extension called the prettier formatter. All right, these are the things I wanted to talk about. Because I already told the other guys who are in the day class and they were able to move very well with it, is installing Java IDE, which is basically, there are several of them. You could try to install the Eclipse. I know a number of you guys have installed software, so you should be able to do, once you download the .exe file, then you should be able to run the executable file using the wizard. Next, then you agree to the terms and conditions of the software. Then you reach finish. And of course, the Java, okay, the Eclipse is also another IDE that you can use. You can also use the Intelli IDEA, which is basically to help you also write your JavaScript. It's just an editor. Then you can also install the NetBeans. And of course, I think NetBeans, or you might use NetBeans a lot when you're doing your projects, because it has that GUI interface. You just drag and drop components and then later do some bit of formatting, just in case if you're not good with visualization, but you should be able to do that. Then the other one is installing the online Java IDE. This works on the mobile apps, but you could access it on the browser. Yes. I'm in for a lecture. All right. So what you could do, basically, you could also go to the online site, which is accessed through the HTTPS /www.judol.com. So Judo is also one of the best. Okay, it's easier to open the link and then write your JavaScript. So I find it fun to use Judo. You could check it out and see if that can work for you. But of course, just to make sure that you have the hands-on, the codes will definitely run normally. You won't have a lot of challenges because it's running on a cloud computing engine. So that's where the code is being compiled and it's run. So be sure to download Judos to run your Java code so that it makes your life a little bit better. And now we're going to move to writing and compiling your JavaScript. So the first thing was basically to write this on an IDE or a development environment. So because you're watching me and then you're using the phone to study, so you won't be able to pick this much more. But I have this updated version of the slide, which I'm going to share with you. So literally what you're going to do is to run a simple script. If you try it out with Judo, it should be able to work. Maybe to make it much easier, I had already demonstrated it the other time how to write a JavaScript using the IDE. But since you're using I think John, you should mute because of your background. John. Okay.
And also we are able to see you on video, so you can unvideo yourself.
That's John, right? That's
Yes,
John,
sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of data, you know, when the video is turned on. Okay, so
money.
yes, money. No, even on our end here, remember we are all using the same data to also be able to look at this video. So it's a two-way. There's seeding, so data is being seeded. You get data get drained from both sides. All right. So I don't know. I want you really to try to run this code on Judo. You can download the mobile app bit of it, or you can open it using the browser. Any question to this point? Any question to this point? With the IDEs?
So, I only have one challenge. Each time I try to download the JDK, it takes me to the option of having an account, which I do not have.
Which you actually don't need it to, you don't need an account to download.
because most times
do you
I've
have a
tried it
laptop?
Yes, I do. I've tried it 4 times and I can't proceed minus the account.
Okay, what we are going to do on Wednesday, I'm going to be, you guys try to come at least earlier before the lecture, before your 5 p.m. lecture time. I'm going to be on campus at 4 p.m. so that I sort out the issues of installation. Could that be okay for everyone on Wednesday?
Yes, it is, sir.
Yeah, because the day class seems to be moving a little bit faster because of I've been able to show them what I'm trying to show you right now. The next thing, I'm just going to continue writing my code using my VS because I've I've done my installation. So the installation is on your end. I don't know which devices you'll be using. That's why I'm recommending that for the desktop computers, yes, I think by Wednesday we should be able to have it because I talked about getting some internet so that we can do the installation bit of it. All right. So the code that you see here is basically a Java program. Actually, this is the first Java code that you can ever have if you're new to programming in Java. So basically, we have what they call the public, then the class. The class, I'll try to do this practically, then I'll explain this more. And I will also try to upload the videos I made with the day class to be public for you guys to follow it up. So this is the code. We will come back and write it practically. Let's first cover this remaining part. So the live demo. Now I'm going to first now switch back to writing the first code, which is basically Davis. You have your video on. You have a lot of internet, Davis. I see you. You're excited young man with a lot of data. Okay, so I'm going to share this is what I normally do when I'm teaching, as long as I need to pick up my VS Code so that we could do some bit of a demo and then you'll be able to ask questions where necessary. Yeah. I'm trying to make sure I can pick up my so I want to try to okay. You let me know if you are able to see my screen. Are you able to see my screen for the
Yes,
VS
sir,
Code?
we're able to see it.
Okay. So from this particular point going forward, we're just going to basically write that code, that basic code to help us at least have our first Java program, which I said I'm going to explain. It's so unfortunate that I wanted to start from a code editor which is already open, but I want to do that. I'm not. So I'm just going to start. Okay, I believe when you install your code editor, you're able to reach up to this point. Okay.
Yes,
This just opening a VS Code, which is not a big thing. Now the next thing is when you open the VS Code, you need to create a folder on the desktop. maybe like a folder called learn Java. Then when you open the folder, then inside that folder, you can go on the desktop. I already have some folder here, learn Java. So when I open this folder, that means I'm inside. Right now, I'm inside. You see here, I'm inside. I am inside. I'm just going to close these few things. So let me just create a new terminal. So when you look at this terminal here, so when you look at this terminal here, in this directory, it means that I'm on the desktop inside a folder called learn Java. I believe you guys know file directory, right? So when you look at the directory part, I'm literally inside the folder learn Java. So from this point, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a new file. If I want to create a new file, I'll just hover over this folder, learn Java. That's why I wanted us to use the same integrated development environment, the same code editor, like Visual Studio Code Editor. So from here, you just click on new file. Then here, I believe you are able to see. Then here, let's say we're going to call this file Justin. Justin. Now, in Java, every file ends with which extension? It ends with what? A dot Java. Is that okay? So when you type a dot Java, there's this J which turns on the file names to be a Java file. And once you press enter, now it shows you that the file name is Justin. The extension is what? Java. Is that okay? Now the next thing is to write the code. Now, what you're going to do, you're just going to write a simple command here like public. So you need to declare public class. Now the class of the file is the same as your file name. So the class is going to be class Justin. Is that okay? Then when you put the curly braces, yes.
Justin has no E on my name. With E, you make me a lady.
Okay, it's okay. So if I rename Justin, I rename here, is that okay? That is Justin.
Yes.
Okay. So can we not save this file? Because when you try saving it, it's actually taking for, okay, it has saved. Now do you know where the problem is right now? Can the class identify why this Justin is being underlined? There's a problem in the small code we have written. Who can tell why that code is being underlined red? Because the class is not the same as the file name of the Java. So we have to delete this E as well. Remember, we made some modification to the file name. So the class also needs to be modified, and that warning goes away. Is that okay? That's the first step that you do when writing any Java program. Then 2, you put a colon, no, a curly braces. Then inside the curly braces, when you press enter, you can now write another line of command, which is public static what? Void. Then I'm going to press, you see the advantage of the tab 9. I'm going to press the tab 9. Now, when I press the tab 9, public static void main string arguments means it's ready to receive any is ready to receive any argument in your script. Okay. So what you're going to do here, that arguments, you need to what? You need to end it with a curly braces. Then press enter. Now, this is the basics of a Java script. But if you want now to run like you want a code output from your script, then let's say you want to print. If you've done C, you've done maybe Python, if you want to print any code, anything to be displayed in the terminal, you just do what they call system out. Because I'm using now Copilot, since it knows I'm writing a Java code, it automates for me system.out.println. I'm just going to press tab. So this is the command that you need to print anything, to print any kind of text in the terminal. So you use system.out.println to output or display any text. Is that okay? So now here, what am I going to write? I'm just going to say, welcome to Java programming. Then I close. You see, tab 9 is saying that I should close the bracket and terminate. I have just pressed tab, so close the bracket and terminate. Now, this becomes the simple script in Java. Is that okay? Remember, this class name should be the same as with your file name, so that the method rules are not overloaded. Now let's try to run. Someone has sent me a text in the chat. Why print ln and not just print what is in? So Edwin Kagwa, you're just printing that line, you're printing this line to display what is in this line. Have I answered you, Edwin Kagwa? Okay. So you print ln, which is you print this line of code. But to print this line of code in Java, even when you hover over it, it tells you that the print ln prints and strings terminates the line. That's why I just use as it prints that line. This method behaves as though it invokes the print string and then the print ln, like this, X, print this to be printed. Okay, basically, if you want to learn more about it, just point over it. It will explain to you more about that. Now, when I click on run, you could even run from here. Now, the thing I needed to explain, you can now see in our terminal, which is going to be for you who are going to use Windows, going to be in your command line. So it's going to be here like what? Welcome to Java programming. So this is the kind of output that you want it to be displayed into your terminal. So you have to write this kind of command so that you're able to what? To display an output in Java. Then another thing that I'm going to talk about is that in Java, you can comment using a /. You highlight, then you press Ctrl /. It adds a double / at the beginning. And this becomes what they call comments in Java. Now, when you run this, so when you run this, this particular line of code, now you won't see any output because this code here is commented. So a comment basically is to allow you understand what you've written in that particular line of code. Remember, we have what we call a single line comment and then the multi-line comment. With the multi-line comment in Java, it's written with a single / with the asterisk. Okay, this becomes what they call a multi-line comments in Java. So And you can now write anything here, like maybe copyright. Now, this is how you can do multi-line commenting in Java. So I've explained our comments to you in Java. Now let's first stop the coding bit of it and then go to the next part of our slide. Any question to this point? Because I don't want to make things complex. I just want to make it easier for you to follow along as we proceed. Are we okay? If you have anything, you can drop it in the chat, like a form of a text. So silence means everything is okay. So I'm going to first stop sharing the live code. Then I'm going to go back to the slide. So that was my quick demo using
So I think you have some messages in regards to the comment line in your chat.
Let me just have a look at the message. Could you please elaborate more? Sir, can you talk about the comments? Now, in any programming languages, what comments mean is that, let's say you have, I'm just going to continue to the next slide, then we will look at that part. I will explain that later. So allow me to explain that when I come back to the live demo, because I want you to understand. And even where I'm lecturing from, mosquitoes are giving me, and these are things I don't like. Okay, but it's okay. We just improvise for today. All right. So now we're going to look at Java data types. Now in Java, I'll explain that in the next line of code, because I've explained to you what comments mean. Comment is just a way of trying to put up a small note on what you have written into that line of a code, so that even when you pass your code to any developer, will know what exactly that line of code means. Is that okay? That's what comment is. Comment is just the best way to write a small note in any programming language. All right, now Java data types. For this particular modules that you're covering, remember we are going to cover around 8 modules. But what you need to look at basically here that when you're dealing with Java, Java has 8 primitive data types. The data types are ways how you represent your data in Java. And one of them is the byte. Now, remember, a byte is just an integer, a small integer. If you want to work with a smaller integer, you could represent it in form of a byte. I believe you know from bits, bytes, then kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, up to zottabytes. I think you should be able to know that that kind of measurement units in terms of data. But in Java, because it's having that primitive data type, starts with what we call a byte. That means a byte is an integer value that can store values. From values mean if you count 1, 2, 3, those values should not exceed 127. That's what it can hold as a byte. Then a short is like a larger integer, but for it, remember, it takes both a positive and a negative value. That means it can store up to 32,768 on the negative side of the value. To the positive side of the value, it stores up to 32,767. Remember, the negative has like 8, but the other one, a positive, the last value is normally a 7. So that's one thing that you should be very keen when playing around with these figures. Let me try to explain what I mean. You see this value here is 8 on the negative. On the positive is 7. On the negative here is 8. And then on the positive here is what? Is 7. So those are the kind of values or integers that it can store. So it starts literally with a byte, then goes to a short, then goes to an integer, then goes to a long. Now, if you've ever tried to work with large number, I don't know how many numbers you can count as far in terms of 10, 1,000, a million, a billion, a trillion. I don't know how many you can count. But if I'm to ask you, this is what? 1,000. This is a million. This is after a million, you go to what? A billion. After a billion, you go to a trillion. After a trillion, you go to a quadrillion. Quadrillion, quintillion, up to zillion. Those measurement units. Okay? Now, when you look at the long, that's on integer, which I believe in most cases we can use. We're not going to go with values beyond billions. So we might stop using billions. But if you have data, you work in a big processing, maybe like financial institutions, and you're processing very big data, then you can use an integer long so that it can store values up to, this is a million, a billion, a trillion, a quadrillion, a sextillion, yeah, up to maybe a quintillion. But of course, you can use long. I believe long can take care of most of this data, which I believe most of our systems we build does not even store much data. But of course, the complexity of the system depends on your target audience, how you're building it. So you could know which type of values you will be holding in that kind of the data type. Then you also have what you call a float. A float is basically a floating point number that can store values in decimal points. If you want your values to be represented in decimal points, then that value can be referred as what? A float. That means floating points or floating decimals are basically used to store values with decimal points. Now, we also have what we call a double, okay? Now, a double is more precise floating point numbers. So that's what doubles mean. And then a char, some people call it char, some people call it car, but a char, which is a single character, if you want to just deal with maybe a letter A, a letter B, then you can refer that to what? A char. Then you also have what we call a boolean. Now, boolean in data types are either are values that are either true or false. So false values are what we refer as what? A Boolean data type. Is that okay? All right, I think that's cool. Then you can move and then look at some of this data, how they are being represented. 127, blah, blah, all this point, this float ends with the F here, which is a float, float by float, my integer, my byte. But remember, the way Java codes are being written, they are being written in what? In the camel case. That's why you see in the center, we have kind of like a capital letter. That's a camel case. But in Python, most scripts are being written in writing our codes. All right, now let's go and talk about variables and operators. Now, with variables and operators, are we still all there? Now we're going to look at variables and operators. Then we can do the live demo here a bit. Now, variable is a name storage location for a value. And variables are used to store data so that it can be accessed and manipulated by a program. That's what variable means. Now, let's say Because a variable is a name storage location. Let's say I want to have the value 25. I can say my var is equals to 25. And my var will be holding the value 25. And that's how you deal with variables. So that's what variable means. It's just a text which is equating to all as it's just storing a value. And values can be floats, can be integer. Now, this is a typical example of a comment with a variable. We have integer, my age. My age here is a variable which is storing 25. So we're going to look at this particular line of code in practice using our live demo code. And then from there, we'll take questions. So we are moving to the live demo bit of the class. And I've already explained to you from the other introductory class to CSC 211, Introduction to Java Programming. Now, Foundation to Java Programming. So we're a little bit familiar with, whenever you see the word live demo with VS Code means we're going to do the hands-on. So I'm just going to stop sharing a bit, then pick up my VS Code, and then proceed straight away to writing the script. All right, so back to our VS Code. Now I'm sure that as a participant, you are able to see our script. And one thing to remind you, class rep, also try to register on the forms. I'll come and sign on them when you meet physically on campus for the attendance. Okay? I'm just going to take the screenshots of the attendance. I'm going to take make sure you try to rename your name in the right way so that even when I take the screenshot, you're not penalized. Now here, what I can see, I'm just taking a screenshot. We are about 11 in class. Okay, we are 10. That means maybe like 2 people have not logged in. But at least the number is not bad. And you guys, if you continue this way, you'll save yourself a bunch of time and then you will learn very well. Because even when you go for your masters, it's going to be easier to learn remotely. So I've taken the attendance, but please make sure you write your name very well. I see Fabin, Alon Davis, Charles. Charles, you need to write all your names. Edwin Kagwa, Justin Oluka, the name is okay. Moses Ocheng, Mwale Vince, Mwale John, Udwoka, Yo Oscar, then Lule, you need to write all your name, Ujok Joffrey. So that's how you need to write your name, especially if you are in a Zoom class, so that the lecturer does not, in future, doesn't give you less marks and you complain that you have not been attending classes. All right, now let's move to the next bit of it. What we are doing now is to write a code with what we call variable. Okay, so we're going to start with a simple variable. First, we need to declare a variable in Java. And this time around, we are calling our variable to be what? Age. Is that okay? So we're just going to say that int. Do you understand what int means? Int means we're trying to store an integer of about 9 billions. But so we are going to do int my age. Let's say maybe pick at random at class. Let's say I'm just going to pick anyone's name from here. We have John. Let's say John is 30 years. You're just going to say John is 30. Then we terminate. But this literally means that we have picked an integer. Can someone mute? I'm getting echo. Are we good? All right. A value of 30. Another way of writing that code, this is one way. I'm going to comment it. Now, another way of writing that code would be int my age, then terminate. Are we together? Then I say my age, then I put a variable of 30. Then now I have tried to use two ways of declaring variables. So int my age means my age is going to store a variable, but here we still have my age warning. Then we are now going to do system out. Then because my age is not used anywhere, we're going to say my age, then close the bracket. Then this is going to stop and then terminate that. Now it's going to stop that. Now that means even in our command line, once we clear up this and then we run this script here, we should expect 30 to be printed in the terminal, because literally we are printing my age and my age is storing 30. That means my age is the same as what? 30. So let's run that and see. So you see 30 here. If I say my age and I do concatenation and add plus plus, what means it just now. So, but that's not how they write. So let's just do this and that, then run that. That means we're trying to do some bit of my age and then we're trying to add 1 to it. And basically that's what it shows up into our. Now, literally, that's what variable means. And because I've already explained what variable means, and I've already explained what commenting means. Now, if I want to comment all this line of codes, or I want to explain something, I'll just put a / here. Oops. Oops. Then I say, age is storing now. If I give out this code to another programmer would know that here age is storing an integer. That's what commenting means in Python. No, in Java. Sorry, I lecture also Python. So if you hear me mentioning Python, just because Python is my #1 programming language, followed by Java. But basically, most of my work, I do it in Python. So that's how you can access the variable, and then you could have that run into your console or into your variable. Then this will print out the output in the terminal, as you can see. Then on the other side, I'm just going to mention a bit on the operators, which shouldn't take me a lot of time. So the operators here I have is a plus. Now, I'm just going. We have the minus. We have the divide. Then you also have the asterisk. Now, Is there anything that we have missed out on the operators? No. Basically, those are the basic operators. Let's say I change this operator to take up a negative value, and then I change the value here to 8. What's going to be the output section? Let me see who is going to pass. What's going to be the output? Type. Make sure you type and participate. 22. That is Ocheng. Okay. Guys, type in the chat. Learn how to use the Zoom class bit of it. Type. Guys, type. Okay. The age is 22. So can we now run this in the terminal? Yes, at least Davis has tried. So let's do this and run it in the terminal. Just click on run. And the age is 22. If you have typed your answer in the chat, you've got it. That is what they mean by using operators. You can try out with all other different operators. Okay, I'm going to go back and stop the live class, the live demo a bit. Then I'm going to go back to our class. Then a simple one. Any question to this point? Any question to this point? Any question on variables and operators to this point?
I think so far so good, sir.
So far so good. But
So
be sure to practice on your own. Okay? Someone wanted to say something.
yeah, I was asking, is the percentage sign not one of the operators?
Yes, it is one of the operators. I just put basics. I haven't gone into details. But you know what a percentage means in Java? No, in any operator. Do you know if you're dividing a value and you want to get the remainder, you use what they call the percentage? Do you know that? I haven't given you all the operators. I've just given you the basics. But the percentage means you use just the double percentage to means the modular, which is the remainder. Remember, if you are dividing a value and you want to get the remainder, then that's when you use the percentage. Have I answered you correctly?
Yes, sir.
Or you're not sure? All right. Control flows. So we have looked at comments, we have looked at variables, we have looked at data types. So far, so good. Now we are on the last bit of module 1, and we are going to start our module 2 today with classes and objects in our OOP, which is object-oriented programming. So let's see how we can play around with control flow statements. And please, this is the time where you need to start thinking aloud, because we are now going to start talking about if, else if, while, you get it, when the condition still remains. So control flow statements. Control flow statements is basically used to control the execution of a program. And it allows you to execute a different block of a code based on certain conditions. Now, one thing that I want you to know about control flow statement is that when you're trying to deal with any JavaScript, the control statements which are there are 3. The first one is called selection statement. Another one is called iteration statement. Then the last one is called the jump statement. Please and please take note of this. I can ask you into any your quizzes. I can ask you into your final exam to explain any 3 types of control flow statements. Please take note of this and note this carefully, that it is highly examinable because it's what you will almost use every time. So there are 3 types of control flow statements in Java. The first one is called what? The first one is called the selection statement, which allows you to execute different blocks of code based on a value of a Boolean expression. And the most common selection statements that we use is what we call the if statement and the switch statements. Take note of those 2. So the switch statement and the if statement are the one which are being used most of the time in the selection statement in Java. The next type of control statements that we use is called the iteration statement. Now, with the iteration statement, it allows you to execute a block of code repeatedly until a certain condition is met. Let's say, I'm just going to give you a quick fun game here with the I'm going to give you a quick fun game here. Let's say you are a software engineer and you got married maybe to maybe some funny lady has given birth and you're trying to ascertain if that kid is yours. Then you say in a programming language, count 1 to 10. Then the ordinary girl will start saying 1, 2, 3. Basically, you just know that's not the gene of a programmer. A gene of a programmer will write the conditions using a loop statement. Okay? It will write a statement while this is this. Then print that line of code. So it will automatically loop through all the process and iterate through that statement and then counts 1 to 10. We're going to do this practically, but it's kind of funny to try to also be in control of the kids you will produce, because the next generation is going to be AI, or basically AI driven. That means it's going to cater more on programming. Basically, you know, it helps you to execute tasks faster. All right, so that was just a brief one, but let's also try to move to the next bit of it, which is going to be what? The jump statement. So in Java, the jump statement allows you to transfer control execution to a different part of a program. Let's say you're running a code and the code is trying to execute a condition. We'll try to look at this in try, especially a lot. Try except method. When you try, if you try, you see this thing doesn't work, then break it and then continue from another point. Maybe you want to count 1 to 10, then from 10, once you reach 10, you break, then jump, and then start counting from 15. Break, then continue when the condition starts from this. Then you use what they call the jump statements. So jump statements in Java are literally done with what they call break statements. Okay, I don't know whether I've put it here, but it's just controlled with what they call the break statements. I don't know if okay, it's not there. I just forgot to write, but please take note of them. It's controlled by what they call the most it's here. The most common jump statements are break statements. Take note of this, and then continue statements. Those are the most common types of jump statements that we can use in Java. Yeah. So I think we're still moving well. Now let's try to go to the source code here. This is a typical code trying to illustrate there's an if condition, there's an else condition, but we try to see. If we have enough time, then we could probably try to learn more. Please, these links are always going to be taking you to the online pre-recorded classes where you can access some of those resources on our course YouTube page channel. I mean, all right. So let's move to the live demo. Now, in the live demo here, just to make our life a little bit easier, we'll still stop, we'll still stop the live demo a bit. Then we'll pick up from our script. And then I'm just going to try as much as possible to I'm just going to write. Okay, basically, I'm just going to comment that out. Then I will see which one I can reuse them in our next part of the source code. So what I want us to do is that I just want us to try something small here. I'm just going to uncomment this line of code, which here what I'm trying to say, we have just said that I want us to play with a value like that value is too big. Let's just do maybe 19 years. Now here what you have done in that same statement, we have declared a variable and you have made it to store 19. So my age is storing 19. Now, maybe if you're not comfortable, just try to highlight everything from here and comment this out. Then I just come a little bit down here and then write a code which is going to be int my age. My age is starting 19. 19 is the age. Then you terminate. Now we haven't used my age anywhere. Then we are saying if what? Open bracket my age is greater 18. What does that mean? It means that if my age is greater than 18, let's try to play some kind of like let's try to do a print output. Let's do a system out here. System out print ln open, then open the quotes. Make sure it's a double quote. Then you say you are an adult. So that's the output you're trying to put. Please do not forget to terminate that line of code. Now, that's what you have done in that first line of code. Now, then, please, you note how I'm trying to indent. Then again, you say, again, you say, let me just try to put this up a bit. Again, you say here, else what? Else, then you do system out. Else otherwise means what? You are a teenager. We call it a child or a teenager. The opposite of adult is what? You're a child.
Can just say underage because child. Okay, child. Yes.
Don't worry, you can use even anything underage. But I think you're a child. Okay, whatever way you're a child. So now what it will do, this will just check if this condition is satisfied, it's going to print this. But if we change the value here and it's less than 18, it will print the line 2. It will print the otherwise, the else conditions, right? Right?
Yes.
That's what control flow does. So should we try and run this code? Because we don't have any problem here. That means our line of code is well written. So let's run that line of code. So what's the output in our terminal? Huh? You are what?
You are an adult.
You're an adult. No, now let's try to be dramatic here. Let's just put 14. Which age is that most people don't like? I'm sure it's 17. When your parents say you're still a child, you get annoyed. Say next year, but next year I'm almost going to be an adult. So when you run this line of code, still you become what? You're a child. So that is how the control flow statement works in Java. The next bit of the control flow statement which we are going to use is the iteration. The breaks and others we shall try to see if we can cover it in our next classes next week. But I want to first talk about a little bit of module 2, because next week I want us at least to finish module 2. And we have more of the examples when we come on campus. Now, we're now going to first check. I hope you have understood up to this point, but there are many more things that we can do. I'm trying to keep this simple so that you contextualize the concept and to make it much easier for you to understand. Now, I'm going to first stop this. Then I'm going to go to my ebook. Now in the ebook, we're done with the live demo code. Now we are going to move to another example, which is the loop. So let's see if we can do also the loop with, let's do the looping. Let's try to use, the loop is the iteration. Let's do this. Let's do looping. So I'm going to just comment all this. Now we basically we have done that. Now we're now going to go to the next bit of it, which is just using we call it iteration statement. Now with the iteration statement, I've given you that simple basic example where I say you could ask your kid if the kid can count 1 to 10. If your kid start counting 1, 2, 3, then you say, stop, you're not my kid. Because as a child of a programmer, you expect your kid to use kind of a for loop and then try to iterate through a process. So here is an example of how we can use iteration statement using the for loop in Java. So basically, what you're going to do, you're just going to say for what? For integer, I is for iteration equals to, you just want to start counting 1. So you would make your variable start from I to start from 1. And if I goes up to 11, okay? Less than 11, that means I will stop at 11. Then, comma, then you say I plus plus, which is, you want it to have an incremental. So I plus plus, the 2 plus is for incremental. It will do the incremental bit of it. Then you close the bracket, then you open the code. So I am not so sure if everything is well opened. Maybe we might have to add. Okay. Okay, hopefully that's okay. The blue. Okay. Maybe we might need to add one more curly braces just to avoid any error. Okay, better. Now it's okay. I just had to double check to make sure things are okay. So yeah, just do system out, open quotes. Then you know what you're going to do? You're just going to say, yeah, just iterate for me, I. Yeah. So basically, that's what you are going to do. And when you run this, it should get for you, it should generate for you 1 to, should generate for you 1 to 10. So you see 1, 2, 3. So literally, this is how you expect your kid as a programmer to be able to count 1 to 10 using this single line of code. And looks beautiful and enticing. So you're not going to have random kids annoying you that you don't know even where the offsprings came from. This is the kind of genes you expect the next kind of a woman who is going to bear your child as a programmer to to be able to count 1 to 10 using a line of code. Then that's fun enough for you. So that simple joke was okay, and yeah, let's stop the live code there, and then I'll go back to the bit of the assignments you're going to do. Basically, okay. Now you have an assignment here for module 1, and I will show you where to submit the assignment. So any questions before I talk about the assignments? What does silence means?
No question from me, sir.
Okay. I hope you're understanding.
Yes, we are.
I'm keeping things simple, but if
We'll
you
try
take
to
interest.
practice. Challenge I might get is, okay, maybe for Java I'll first hold, but I'll try to practice using the online one.
Yeah, as long as you have, but I've given you everything you need for now. The online one, and then what else? I've given you the online. I've shown you I'll be available on campus on Wednesday. Yeah, let's see how it goes. I have no problem completely. I have no problem completely. Let's see how best it goes. So here is your assignment 1. So in your assignment, you're going to use control flow statement in real life situations. 1, let's say you're dealing with an online store that wants to determine whether to allow a customer buy an item based on their customer age, and then their item age ratings. So you're going to write a control flow statement to do that. Then I'll show you where to submit your source code. But literally, I just want you to create a Git. Go to GitHub. Go to this website. I'm going to put it in the chat. I don't know, but I think that would be the best. Go to this website. Go to this collaboration platform called github.com. Sign up there, then commit your codes there, and then share with me your link to that code. I'll be able to mark them and then try to give you your scores for your personal assignments, which counts marks for the individual assignment. So that's going to be the first assignment. Then I find assignment 2 is maybe you try to use a flow statement to determine to load the next level of a game based on a player's progress. So you could think about this solution using a control flow statement. Okay. Then another one is look at the problem in terms of a bank which is trying to use to determine to allow whether a customer can withdraw money based on their customer account balances. So you could determine whether to allow or not to allow a customer to withdraw money based on their customer bank balance. I think that's cool enough. Those 3 assignments can be done. Try it out. Send me your solution. I'll look at them, then respond to all of you. But try to work it out because that's your assignment. Then send me your link to this email. That is it. That's the end of module 1. We're going to start module 2 in a few minutes from now. So I propose you ask a few questions. Module 2 is basically going to be just introducing it.
So,
yes.
Beg your pardon. How soon will this be uploaded? Because some of us would like to re-listen during the night when we are home.
I'm going to upload it today.
All right.
Yeah. By around 10 there, I'll upload. Because right now I'm kind of far away. But I'm sure by around 9 I'll be in my room. Or if I get access to power where I am, as soon as the recording is made available, I'll upload it from here before I move to my next venue.
First.
As long as I can get access to power where I can charge my laptop. Remember, my laptop takes only 5 hours until maybe I get my other laptop, which will take about 19 hours of power. I won't be having any problem. But for now, this laptop only takes 5 hours, which is quite annoying in terms of battery. All right. Any question to this point? No question. Now
I think they will come while we are practicing when we get challenges.
Yeah, I know. Quite a number of questions might come up from there. I'm trying to get the next bit of the slides, but I'm telling you, things are trying to jump left, right here. It's not even. But let me just try it out and try to get the PDF version of the file. But how is the online lecture? It's more or less the same as being physically, but I think you cover more when you're doing online, right?
True.
I'm telling you guys, try to embrace learning. Avoid learning in the old traditional way. Especially you guys who are in the evening classes, because you're working, and one of the reasons why you can be on campus also, it's not bad, but because you have another lecture after this. Okay, so let's try to play around with module 2, which I think I'll do some few slides. I won't go so deep because module 2 seems to be wide. I'll just do about I'll do about 6 slides. Let me just do 6 slides on module 2, since we still have another day. we shall clear this. We have the whole October. Although I have a trip to Cameroon, I will still also continue lecturing online. Just know that I might be leaving the country on 22nd of this month. Then I will return in October. That means almost like 2 weeks we are going to study online when I'm in Cameroon. Of course, you can't avoid that.
Well, does that mean you'll still be accessible, or we will only be accessing you during the lecture hours?
During the lecture hours. But still, you'll be accessing me like the way you're accessing me now. Okay, the thing is, I don't want to kill my dreams. Lecturing is just basically to give you guys my knowledge, and that is it. I have so many engagement in Africa. I told you guys I'm not an ordinary worker who works in Uganda alone. No, me, I'm an international worker. So I have projects that I'm doing. Next year I'll be in Namibia. And I have to tell you quite early enough so that you don't say that I'm on and off. No, I'm very reliable as long as you understand my flexibility. That's why I was advocating about my teaching methods. But for this, from now up to around 20th, I think about say 3 weeks from now, you have access to me when I'm still in the country. But the other 2 weeks, the 2 weeks I'll be in Cameroon, then I'll come back around 5th of November there. I'll come back. Then I will also be physically on campus for at least 2 weeks. No, 3 weeks. Then December you will sit for your exams, which carries the 60%. So try to access me each and every time I tell. Anyway, the good thing I created a WhatsApp group. As long as I'm on campus, try to access me. Is that okay? I don't want my dreams to be shattered by this teaching, which if I go to Cameroon, just one flight like this, I can even get salary equivalent to 6 months of teaching, which literally everyone can't avoid that opportunity. But I will teach. Don't worry, we shall do Zoom. Are you not comfortable with Zoom?
We are.
Or you want to see me a poor man? I don't want to be poor, you guys.
We are. When you're rich, we know you'll give us a shoulder, a hand.
I'll open opportunities for you guys. That's the fact. But I don't want to be a struggling or a gambling lecturer. No, that's not my dream. I'm a very young man and I have a lot of ambition. And remember, I'm also doing my PhD, so I have a lot of stuff I do, man. All right. Sorry, this covers will now end up even in our recorded classes, which I never wanted.
Well, it was nice to give the brain a rest before we start module 2.
Okay. Let's start module 2. Module 2 won't be long because I want to give you time to freshen up for the next lecture, which is coming up. I'm just going to introduce a few things, then probably you can read ahead. So module 2 is literally on object-oriented programming still, which is basically OOP. Object-oriented programming, most people call it OOP, okay? So what does it mean in object-oriented programming? The things I'm going to talk about right now might not be so much enticing because the concepts are a little bit advanced, but I will try to mention them. But literally, with object-oriented programming, our main reason should even be dealing with what we call classes and objects, which class is just a blueprint of creating objects, and then objects is just an instance of a class. If you can understand those two things, it's going to be okay. But before we dive into module 2, we're going to look at classes and objects, where I say a class is a blueprint for creating object, and then an object is an instance of a class. So basically here, a class defines the properties and behavior that all objects of the class will have. And then an object will is just a concrete entity that has the properties and behavior that is defined by the class. We'll try to look at this in a practical example, but in our next class, because I don't want to have two live coding sessions in one lecture. It's going to confuse you. So then we will look at inheritance, which inheritance is basically going to be a mechanism in object-oriented programming that will allow one class to inherit properties and behavior of another class. This will allow you to reuse the code and avoid writing the same code over and over again. So that's what inheritance is all about. Then we're also going to talk about what we call polymorphism. Polymorphism, which is a feature of object-oriented programming that will allow that allows objects of the same class to have to behave in a different way. This is achieved by allowing the object to decide which method to call at a runtime. So we look at that especially when we do the compile time polymorphism, which is another way of dealing with object-oriented programming. Then there's also one other thing which we're going to talk about, which is going to be called encapsulation, which is also a mechanism in object-oriented programming that allows you to handle a bundle of, allows you to bundle together an object and data and behavior in a single unit. This makes the object to be self-contained and then easier to manage. Of course, encapsulation is achieved by making the object or to make the data private and providing a public method to access or modify data. This will allow you to control the data access and its use, and it's also accessed and modified. And it also prevents the objects from directly accessing the data. We'll also look at this in another kind of example. Then we also have one last bit of it, which is called abstraction. Now, with abstraction, of course, is still another mechanism in object-oriented programming that will allow you to hide unnecessary details or expose essential information about an object. Let's say like you have a credit card information and you don't want people to see the account number. So you use a method called abstraction, which is used to hide certain details which are not meant to provide kind of a privacy. So abstraction is always achieved in so many ways by hiding some of those data. We'll try to look at some of this in real life examples. All right, so that is basically about the object-oriented programming. But of course, this concept is key in everyday life of any programmer. So with object-oriented programming, I want to summarize in about the next 5 minutes, is that in any programming paradigms, I don't want to call it paradigm, it's called paradigms. They use objects and their instructions to design applications and computer programs. Now, this in most cases used in popular paradigms today that helps to develop a variety of applications like web-based applications, mobile apps, desktop applications, and enterprise software. So that's why object-oriented programming is very key. Then we're going to also look at OOP, which is based on the following principles. The first principle, which is abstraction, which I told you is just hiding unnecessary details or exposing essential data. and try to make it hidden from the object. It makes it easier to understand how to use these objects. Then encapsulation is the process of building or bundling together an object and data and behavior in a single unit. This makes object self-contained and easier to manage. Then you also have inheritance, which is inheritance, just a process of creating a new object from an existing object. It allows you to reuse code and avoid writing the same code over and over again. And then polymorphism is the ability of an object to take one different form. Of course, I talked about it. The object can be more flexible and easier to use in different situations. So OOP provides a number of benefits if you're going to use object-oriented programming. One of the benefits is that it breaks down complex problem into smaller and manageable pieces. If you want to have chunks of problems, you can handle it using OOPs. Then it also makes it easier for you to write the code and maintain or debug. Of course, we're going to look at that process where you can debug, write, and then maintain a code. Then another thing is that reusability. OOP also allows you to reuse code by creating new objects from the existing objects. And this saves you a lot of time, and it also helps to improve on the quality of your code. And then maintainability, of course, makes it makes the code easier to maintain by encapsulating objects and hiding unnecessary details. So that's what you're going to look at. So these are the 6 slides that I wanted you to look at it right now. And thank you for attending, and thank you for joining. We will stop this class here today, and I will share the recording as soon as they are made available. Let me give you this 15 minutes to freshen up and prepare for the next lecture that is coming up at 7. Otherwise, peace. The class is dismissed if there's no question.
Thank you, sir. We much appreciate your time as well.
Okay. I hope you have learned a lot today, and I hope you're going to practice. And the deadline for submitting the assignment should be Sunday. Should be good enough. Although Sunday, I will still also not be in Kampala. You see, I told you guys I travel a lot. I have a trip to another university on Thursday night, in fact. Okay, I think I will travel on Friday by around 10. That's when I'll leave Kampala. All right, otherwise, thank you for joining. I'll share with you the recording onto our online YouTube channel. Okay, class is dismissed. Go take a break. See you on Wednesday for the physical lectures.
Thank you, sir. Good evening.
Okay. Have a nice evening.